Hey everyone, let's talk crypto mining. A friend of mine asked for a friend of theirs, what is going on in the mining side of the world today? If you're paying attention to cryptocurrencies at all, especially Bitcoin, you know that China has done a major crackdown on mining operations, which has lowered the overall difficulty rate to mine Bitcoin substantially relative to the recent peaks in both price and difficulty just a few months ago. The question then becomes, is this an opportunity to jump in? Well, this is probably a temporary decline in difficulty. A lot of those mining operations will come back online someplace else, whether it be in Eastern Europe or Florida or Texas, which are both trying to lure a lot of these organizations over. You have to think about the time frame of this. And we're going to talk in a generality about the macro market, and then we're going to dive into the three fundamentals of cryptocurrency mining specific to you as an individual and how you can jump in. Continuing on the macro thought path, these companies that have been shut down in China, if they're going to move, there's a couple logistical elements to that. First, they've got to find their location. They've got to build the facility that has the infrastructure in order to support mining. And then they've got to get the equipment in. And is it worth moving the equipment that they have, or do they need to get new equipment, which when buying in mass takes good relationships and still takes a lot of money and a little bit of time. If you were today to have Bitcoin mining equipment that you shut off maybe 6 months ago because it wasn't profitable, it would be an excellent idea to turn it back on. But would it be a good idea to go out and purchase new hardware in order to get started? Well, that leads us into the main conversation for this video. Is now a good time, or is now a profitable time to be in cryptocurrency mining? Now, notice I didn't say Bitcoin mining. There is a website, whattomine, mine.com, that's going to list all of the different cryptocurrencies that are available to mine. And there are hundreds, if not thousands of them that you can take a look at. And what you're looking at is you're looking at the profitability versus the difficulty. And then what you believe the potential future value of some of these tokens may be. There's two parts to profitability. There is what you're going to take in and liquidate in order to generate the cash to pay for electricity. And then there's what's going to be left over, which you can either liquidate or transfer. So when I say liquidate, I'm usually thinking in my mind back to maybe a stable token or even back all the way to USD. And what you might keep for future profitability. If you're mining Bitcoin now, you're likely to be doing it to accumulate Bitcoin and not just to create USD profit. You'd want to pay your bills maybe another way, your electrical bill, and then keep that Bitcoin in an account for hopes of future gains. Let's talk about some of the statistics or numbers that you need to understand in cryptocurrency mining. The most important one is being hash rate, which is terahash per second. And that is going to tell you how much computing power you need in order to earn a payout in the mining operations. Now, let's take a time out on this conversation to talk a little bit about risk. And even before that, what's going on in the industry. Bitcoin, of course, started all of this. The second biggest cryptocurrency is Ethereum. The reason that I'm going to mention this here is they're going through a transformation that's going to take about 18 months to 2 years, where they're going from proof of work, which is mining, to proof of stake, which is where individuals take large amounts of that asset and they stake it in order to support the transactions that are needed inside of the blockchain. Now, with Ethereum getting ready to change over, a lot of miners are kind of in a tough spot if they're Ethereum miners. The difficulty rate of this is going to continue to drop as miners move from Ethereum to other assets in preparation for this, which in the next 6 months, mining profits could be completely destroyed. A lot of this is done to lower the overall transaction cost, and the speed and the efficiency. Ethereum's had a lot of backlogs in transactions and extremely high gas fees because so many other tokens are built on the Ethereum blockchain that the network often gets clogged. With the popularity of NFTs, we saw a huge spike in costs where the transaction, the gas cost in order to do a transaction in the NFT space went from like dollars to at some points was above $500 in order to buy like a $2 item, which of course is not sustainable. So this has been working for a work in progress for a long time. It does create opportunities. When you're measuring the profitability of mining versus staking, staking usually has a fixed return. Right now, I am staking Ethereum with Coinbase, which was 6%, and now it's 5% annual return. It's not bad. There are other places out there that will pay you more. Just be very careful. So as we're in our timeout to talk about risk, let's also talk about mining pools. Often when you go to a website to buy the equipment that you need to do mining, you'll also see advertisement for mining pools. The idea behind that is that someone else has paid all of the upfront costs for infrastructure, and now you can lease part of their hash rate in order to create profitability for yourself. These have been around for a long time. There's been a lot of shady business that's gone on in that space. There's been a lot of these mining organizations that just up and disappear. With the crackdown in China, now I'm not saying that this has happened, but I'm sure it's going on somewhere in there as these businesses get shut down. One day they're on, one day they're off. If you're buying through a broker who's leasing from them, you've really got to think about whether or not you're actually still getting your returns or if it's just on paper. The best way to watch out for that is looking at what your transfer opportunities are going to be. So if you sign up for a Bitcoin mining pool, and you can transfer Bitcoin every time you hit 0.1 Bitcoin, which would be around $3,200 worth, but it's going to take you 2 years to get there. There's a high probability that you're never going to get a penny out of that. So you have to look at how those rewards are given to you. Are they held in their wallets until a certain point where you can transfer, or are they sent directly to you? And then you've got to look at transaction costs relative to the amount of money being sent to you. So let's jump back into mining and let's go over what I believe are the 3 most important things that you've got to think about as you're jumping into this, which of course are costs and profitability and all of those elements in between. So the first part is your equipment and software. Recently, as of a few months ago, there was a huge shortage on mining equipment. A lot of this has to do with the chips that are needed, which is affecting all aspects of our lives today. Unless you've got your head buried under the sand, you know that US car manufacturers are really struggling because they can't get the chips that they need in order to get the cars off the assembly lines. There are fields with tens of thousands of vehicles sitting in them that just need the chips in order to hit dealerships. If you're driving down the freeway anywhere in the US, you're driving by a dealership, don't those lots look pretty empty relative to what you would normally see there? So be careful when you go to buy this equipment. I was looking around at a lot of different websites. I'm not going to give any specific websites because that would almost infer a recommendation, and I don't want to do that. But what I will say is that Bitmain is probably the #1 manufacturer with the Antminer of Bitcoin mining or SHA-256 mining equipment. SHA-256 is the cryptological language that these miners can mine, which covers Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and a lot of other assets. There's also GPU mining, which you can use a normal computer in order to mine, just using some software. And these are all things that you can just Google. You can Google Bitmain Antminer. I'm looking on this website right now, which is a US-based website. It says that it's in stock to ship right now. It runs around $9,000 for this one piece of equipment. When you start thinking about your equipment costs, there are calculators online that not only show you your daily profitability on mining a specific coin, but you also have to calculate in your hard costs. So if this is a $9,000 piece of equipment, when I'm looking at the calculators that say how long it will take for this to pay itself back with the cost of electricity, it's about 310 days. So I mentioned that because when you think about the opportunity right now, Bitcoin mining difficulty has fallen, the price has fallen, China's cracking down on it as they make way for their digital currency, and they want to clean their country out of all of the other ones the best that they possibly can. If that gives you a 6-month window of decreased difficulty, but it's going to take you roughly 10 to 11 months for you to pay the equipment costs back, you've got to really think about all of that. You've got to put pen to paper. and really calculate all of your expenses and potential profitability just to make sure that you're not getting in over your head on relative costs. Once you have the equipment, this is something that I've made mistakes on twice. My first mining operation was in 2015. I bought 12 used miners off of a person on Craigslist, had them brought into my office, only to find out that I didn't have the proper electricity outlets because they were running on 220. And my building wouldn't let me upgrade. So I turned around and sold them. I actually made a little bit of a profit on turning around and selling them again, but I never actually got to set up an operation. So make sure that you're aware of the type of electrical outlets or electrical power sources that you're going to need. The second time was working with a team in an incubator that I was working at. And they set up 60 rigs and navigated through getting the city to run a dedicated power line to it, getting the facility that we were in to run special ventilation into the room so that there was enough airflow, but still kept running into problems with cooling and then the noise. These run at about 75 decibels. You put a bunch of them together and it sounds like there's a jet engine in the room. Now, if you do that on a floor that has other offices, people complain really quickly. Really what I'm telling you is you've really got to think through these steps. You've got to make sure that you're going to have enough power. You've got to make sure that you're going to have enough airflow. You've got to have a room maybe that you can soundproof, but also properly ventilate and cool. And you've got to calculate your electricity costs. And that's really where profitability comes in. You've got to understand your initial capital costs for facility and equipment. You've got to understand your ongoing costs, such as electricity, cooling, software, rent, maybe, and then calculate all of those out based on the profitability, which, by the way, the profitability can change on a daily basis. So there, again, what to mine is a great place to go. You can learn a lot. There's a lot of links to articles that'll help you. There is a YouTube video on every type of coin you can ever possibly mine that will talk about either the equipment or the software that is needed. I could not go into all of that on this video without this being an all day long video. And there's still people out there that are better at the individual coins than I would be based on my knowledge base. If you take all of these into consideration, all of your equipment and software, what coin you're going to mine, and then all of your costs relative to your profitability, understanding all of the different considerations that come with being in this market, there is money to be made. I know plenty of people who have set up little hacked mining rig operations in their apartments to mine Ethereum, and it pays their rent after all costs. The more technologically savvy or computer savvy you are, the more likely you are to have success with this. If you need to go out and buy all of your equipment retail, don't forget, so does everybody else. And that just shows you who all you're competing with. When you think about the opportunity, things are changing. Ethereum is going from proof of work to proof of stake. Bitcoin difficulty is down because of things that are going on in China. That will eventually balance itself out, especially as the price begins to rise again. You have publicly traded companies in the United States buying out mining operations and bringing them under their umbrella in order to increase the value of their stock price and bring in net new capital, which helps them continue to build out their facilities. I'm not trying to scare you out of this. I just want to make sure that you don't miss an obvious step that leads to you not being profitable. If you take all of these considerations in and the numbers work, go for it. I'm Roger Bryan. I appreciate you watching this video. Make sure to click the subscribe button. And if you got any questions, post them below and I'll be happy to do another video for you. Appreciate you. Peace.